there's a lot of reward in that.
Yeah, it's just a great feeling. Great feeling.
Right. Well, welcome everyone to our Success Mastermind for Friday, the 6th of May. Fun Friday, formal Friday today. First Friday of the month. Hence, how dapper I look, if I don't say so myself. Come on.
Very dressed
What?
up.
You laugh at me? Oh,
no,
thank
I'm
you.
laughing with you.
Missy, you've got your private jet.
Missy, I like your backdrop there. Is that your
Yes,
little
well, we're
plane?
picking you up too, Gail. We're all going to lunch. We'll pick all of you up.
Perfect.
Where do you guys want to go? I was thinking sushi, maybe Tokyo. What do you think?
Oh, yeah, that would be nice.
Yeah.
No sushi. No.
You know, wouldn't it be interesting? I know Glenn's not here at the moment, but wouldn't it be interesting if the Star Trek transporter thing was like real? Like,
I'm the Trekkie. I'm a bigger Trekkie than Glenn. So
Really?
Yeah, they're working on it, John. They're actually working on it. Somebody's been working on that for 20 years, and
that was given to Gene Roddenberry. Gene Roddenberry was given a lot of information, and he put it into the show to show what was coming down the road.
Okay. Well, that would kind of wipe out the transportation industry. I guess people could still use vehicles for nostalgia.
Well, because sometimes it scrambles your molecules and you end up dead, especially if you're in security. So.
That's the challenge, that you may not arrive in the same form you left. Yeah.
Got it. Wasn't there a science fiction movie where, and we have no topic yet, it's Fun Friday, but wasn't there a science fiction movie where there was a fly that got into the chamber with the guy and then
David Hedison.
The fly. That's right. That's right.
A Franz Kafka novel, very famous. Yeah, it's based around that, I think. Terrifying.
Yeah, that was with Gregor. He turned into a bug in his room. It was very weird.
Yeah.
David Hedison was a very good-looking fly. Yeah.
Well, there you go. So, so who needs a dog show when you got the fly? Speaking of which, just before it went live, I was asking Adrian if he's had any time with his instrument. I know he's into the guitar, and the idea of performing live came up, and I wanted to kind of bring that in, because I know a lot of the stuff that we talk about here with with our group is more towards production, and here's how we apply philosophies into business and life and all this, but there's also the word avocation has come up a couple of times this week. Here's a hobby, here's something we do for pleasure, here's something we do, let's say, to recharge our batteries. So Adrian, your comment about the exhilaration or the experience of performing live, that came up for me this week as I was rediscovering some old bands, right? So here's some musical acts from the 1980s and whatever, who have either resurrected or never stopped, right? In some cases, they're still going and they're still kicking ass on stage. And I'm thinking, now, are these guys, are they, they're getting rich doing this? No, but it's their thing, right? And the pay, part of the pay, of course, is the experience, the music, the performance, the engagement, with that art form. Aesthetics are a very high level thing, for people. If you think about Maslow's hierarchy of needs, where he talked about, basic survival, food, air, whatever, right? And then self-actualization at the top, right? But you've got, in there different meaning, right? You've got meaning, and you've got self-expression. You've got these things. I don't have his hierarchy in front of me right now, but you've got things that are higher than, animalistic, eat, mate, right? Survive, right? There's higher things than that. And as conscious beings, arguably, but as conscious beings, right, we seek higher levels of expression. We're not just running on instinct. Most of us, I would say, we're not just running on instinct. It's not just Missy, the rat looking for cheese. Okay, there's a bigger game afoot. And part of that game is to enjoy the game. Now, we've talked about this before. The excuse me, the idea that you could be in the game, but you could also be the observer of the game. You could be on the field throwing the ball and whatever, but you could be emotionally detached from it to such a degree that you could observe the plays, kind of like the announcer or the referee does, okay, and not be so fixated on, you know, the ball or your opponent or whatever, right? And there's lots of different games in life, but all of them are games that we have the power of choice to, you know, we can play or not play. There's a couple of games where I don't feel like I had the power of choice. Taxation, there's a game, right? Having a body, that's an interesting game. Somewhere along the line, I chose that. I may not recall how that happened, but so there's lots of games that we're involved in. Business, right? Well, which kind of business, right? We could have multiple games going there. Relationships. And essentially the title of today's talk is, you know, higher level, taking things to the next level. Certainly that's a cliche we've all heard, right? Is taking things to the next level or playing on a higher level. Well, how do we actually do that? So if we looked at a game like the music business, okay, here's these guys who are, you know, kicking ass on stage 30, 40 years later, or resurrecting the act that, you know, kind of went the way of the dodo. Now it's back, right? Which inspires me, right? And doing it better than they did last time because they've learned stuff. You see, they've educated themselves, or they've got experience, right? They know how to separate the wheat from the chaff, right? Therefore, they can play a bigger game or produce a better product, right? So talking about higher level stuff. In the world of business, right? Experience definitely can pay, right? A whole lot more in less time. I mean, the whole idea of scaling up, let's say you've got a workable offer, right? It's got proof of concept because you sold it to one customer. Okay, well, there's a little bit of proof, right? Well, now it's 100 customers, right? You've learned some things in the process. Now there's, you know, millions of customers, right? So it's a much bigger game. So you've up-leveled that, you've scaled that up. And I've alluded to this a bit over the past week, the idea of the comfort zone or the familiarity zone, perhaps we can call it, where because I know this, right? Because I've gotten, you know, very good and competent and whatever, or mastery at this aspect of the game, and I've not put my attention on playing at a higher level. I could be in not necessarily a slump, although we've all experienced those as well, but I could be in sort of a stasis, right? There's this saying that good is the enemy of great. So two considerations that are coming up for me right now. One, why would I play a bigger game? What motivates me to want to go to a higher level? Great question to ask. Okay, so everybody ask yourself that. You may want to write that down. Why would I want to go to a higher level? Am I motivated to do so? What are the spoils? What are the awards or rewards for having achieved a higher level? Is it simply, you know, more money and less time with less effort? Is it, you know, having a bit more, you know, options and flexibility, which is one of the considerations that has come up for me, spending a week in Hawaii last week and off the grid, really looking at where does my time go? And I'm not getting any more of it, right? I'm about to have a birthday in a couple of weeks. All right, so now what, right? What's this next year going to look like? So these are all things that I could look at or fail to look at, right? If I don't think I can achieve a higher level, is if that's the problem, well, you know, then it's back down that hierarchy down to, you know, here's the rat, here's the cheese, right? Hey, I'm getting cheese, and that's like it in life, man. Just get the cheese and be happy with what you got. Really? Is that it? Is that the good being the enemy of great? The fact that you got to eat cheese today? So there's a certain level, a standard, we could say, a certain standard that we've already set for ourselves, which may or may not be pleasing or comfortable or whatever, but it's our standards. And like Maxwell Maltz talked about in psychocybernetics, it's like an autopilot. It's like a thermostat setting. It's a predetermined, expected outcome. When I set my thermostat, to 75 degrees Fahrenheit or whatever, right? Whether it's too hot or too cold in terms of, ambient outside influences, that thermostat will, correct by using whatever machinery it's hooked up to, HVAC systems and whatever, but it will correct the disparity between the expected result and the actual experience, whether it's too high or too low. And we've heard stories of people who've had a spectacular, month, right? Big production month, and then go in a slump for 2 or 3 months to correct course back to the mediocrity, which was what they were expecting. And the other way, right? We've seen people, dip down, their stats are horrible, and suddenly they get motivated to get back on course to mediocrity or whatever that stasis or that standard is. So our standards are very predictive, we could say. If we can perceive, as Napoleon Hill said, that which the mind can conceive and believe it can achieve. All right. So if we can conceive, believe, perceive, however, the higher level result, and create some expectation around that, like I can, right? Is our mantra. I can. Or we can, right? If working with an organization. Well, then we seek motivation to reach to a higher level. So the question is, what motivates you or not? Do you think you can't? Is this your lot in life? Is this it? Here's your cheese. Is that it? Now, look, outside influences all the time are telling you, yeah, that's it. That's it. In fact, be happy with what you got. This is a new normal, ladies and gentlemen. Austerity. Less for you. Never mind the elites, right? They get whatever they want. But you, commoner, there's that narrative. Does that serve you? Does that inspire you and motivate you to stand up and reach high above mediocrity? No. Nor is it designed to. Hence, countering a disempowering or invalidating narrative, countering that with all the stuff that we do here, right? And whatever you're doing on your own, reading books and going to lectures and studying business and personal development, right? Yeah, you damn well better counter that, because there's an agenda and it's not in your best interest. So you damn well better have your own agenda. Okay? Because without motivation, I wrote about this in Integrity is Everything. Without a motivation, we never reach higher. I was motivated to pick myself up by my bootstraps and get out of the gutter and do all the things, the transformational kind of advancing things in life that I was motivated to do. And had I not been motivated, which means willingness to act, right? Willingness to do, that's motivation. That's what that means. Okay, well, then I would have never succeeded, because you want to have a result. Well, you got to do something, right? Well, to do something, you've got to be willing to do something. And of course, going deeper into that rabbit hole, if the results are here, the doing this is here, the motivation to do is here, below that or behind that was what? The belief that I could. The belief that I could. Yes, there is a light at the end of the tunnel. I can do. I can have. I can be more than what I've demonstrated up to this point. And if I didn't believe that, well, why bother trying? I got my cheese over here. Why did I believe? This was, digging that well as deep as I could through meditating on that. Well, the reason I believed is because I looked. I had evidence. Your evidence, your example, your success inspired me. And that's multiple people, right? So when I think about it right now, I think about part of my motivation to advance. Think of the cycle here. So here's little John, right? And he sees somebody else succeeding and thinks, oh, that would be good for me. I could do that. I believe I could do that. Okay, great. So a little bit of self-belief, motivation, action, result. That result now becomes the evidence that somebody else who has eyes to see can then perceive and say, oh, maybe there is a light at the end of the tunnel for me. Maybe I should turn off the television. Maybe I should get off my ass. Maybe I should do something because I can. Look at John's example. So in light of that, reality and the result of a higher level, playing at a higher level, producing at a higher level, demonstrating better results, that becomes my moral obligation. Because if I'm just demonstrating mediocrity, well, who am I inspiring? To pick themselves up by their bootstraps. What did Wallace D. Wattles say in so many words? The best way to help the poor is to not be one of them. Well, then your mission then, okay, if you're with this idea, your mission then is to go make as much money as you can as fast as you can. Unapologetically. Go make a spectacle of yourself. Look, I don't think we need any more victims. We got plenty of those on planet Earth. We're replete with victim society. I think we need leaders. So here's you, and here's your example, your results for anyone who's willing to look and inspire them. Excuse me. Now, again, this goes against the narrative. The narrative is, well, if these people get more, then those people get less. That's the narrative. It's an easy sell, by the way, to victim society, right? I mean, that's some good victimhood right there. I mean, you can never accomplish more than this. So therefore, you should probably want to take from these other people. Here's the haves and the have-nots. I mean, this is straight up Marxism. But the idea there is that the equity of outcome is somehow achievable or desirable. Where, and we can look throughout, history and see that it's never been achievable and it's never worked. But the equal opportunity, of course. Okay, but you're going to have people who engage at different levels with different things. I would say that it's my job and yours to reach as high as you possibly can, and to not be satisfied with whatever bare bones survival, low on the hierarchy kind of stuff, right? But you're either part of the problem or part of the solution. Choose, right? Because you're either advancing or retreating, and you're either inspiring or disinspiring others by your example. And you may not even know who's looking. Now, obviously, if you're a parent, well, somebody's looking, right? That next generation. So this is pretty important. And if all I've done over the last 30 years or so in attempting to, improve my lot, if all I've done is inspire, a few people to stop being pathetic and recognize that, I can. I mean, after all, this Lavenia guy can do it. I mean, he was almost dead at age 15. It was the gutter streets of New Jersey, right? Okay, maybe I can do it too, right? Or do whatever my path is, right? So I, that's his path over there. But I'm inspired by this, whatever that path happens to be. So that's the first consideration, is why would you reach higher? And I just gave you one of the answers, at least out of my book, right? Because it's not just about you. There's a bigger game afoot. Okay, and why not? Why not reach higher? Well, if you don't believe you can, then you won't. So let's look for evidences. Let's look for examples, and let's load our guns, right, with validation and validating ideas that support how able you actually are. You are so able. Gail, I see you got to run. We'll see you soon. So you're quite able, whether or not you've demonstrated that up to this point. And to a degree you have. I mean, you're still here, right? You survived. Congratulations. Yeah, that's good. Some haven't, right? So you get credit for that. But where on that hierarchy are you surviving? So that's the first consideration. The first consideration is why would I reach higher? What motivates me? The second consideration, assuming we've got some good reasons to reach higher, would be how, right? How can I do that? How can I do that? Now, I think it was Einstein who said, if you focused your entire mental energy on a problem for 2 minutes, not only would you solve the problem, you'd be a genius. So now we're getting into how to kind of stuff. And so if we've got the why, all right, so how do we do that? And these are the questions that scientists have asked for millennia, right? So we want to know, why does this work, or how could we make this work, right? And this is the assuming we get the why. Okay, this is where a lot of people kind of get vague. There's that saying, if you're failing to plan, you're planning to fail, which I've been guilty of plenty of times, right? In that stasis, in that, good is the enemy of great. Yeah, I'm surviving, I'm doing good, I'm doing better than the average guy, on the street. Okay, well, if that's your barometer, if that's your standard, well, what's that worth, right? So no, we advance by setting higher standards, okay, and then figuring out ways to fulfill those intentions. So now we're into the how, and that's different for everybody. In The Science of Getting Rich, Wallace Wattles talked about how two people engaged in the same business can have totally different results. One gets rich, the other remains poor. Of course, the one who gets rich, he says, does things in a certain way. And to do things in a certain way, you got to think in a certain way. Okay, so that sounds like a well-planned way to me. That sounds like a way where there's not a whole lot of vagueness and doubt. Certainty, plans, methods, systems, how-tos. He even goes further and talks about, if all of your actions are efficient ones, then you must get rich. Efficient, meaning, you got to it done, right, in less time, in some cases with less effort, because you operated with purpose and faith, right? So I'm going to do this to this specific outcome, purpose, and I know that I can, so I have faith, right? And then it's done in less time than it would take for sitting there without a plan and without the how-tos, at least postulated. I'm not saying that you've got a crystal ball and every little piece of drama on the path. Who does, right? Nobody knows how to reach a goal until you've reached it. But that you've educated yourself, you've maybe taken courses, you've gotten mentoring, right? You've got other examples, once again, from other people who have walked that path before you, and you can be a bit educated in your I don't want to say guesswork, but in your approaches to execute whatever plans, and then solidify them and adjust as needed. You see, you can't optimize. You can't steer a parked car, right? So you can't optimize statistics that don't exist. You can't qualify or disqualify methods that haven't been executed. So how? So the first piece of inventory is, what do I want that I believe I could achieve to operate and demonstrate on a higher level in my life? And then the second consideration is, what doing this, right? What how-tos and what have you, what methods could bring me to that? And you're not going to be 100% right, but you're going to at least have a plan. Now, this has been difficult for me because of probably a lot of my training. Two kinds of training. One is training that was unintended, of observing lots of other people who had no plan and never reached higher than mediocrity. That's part of my training, is how to be mediocre. Has anybody else been through that training course? It usually lasts a few decades, starts at birth, right? So there's some training right there. The other training I got, which was a big step up from that, was I entered the trades, the mechanical fields, right? You guys know I was a diesel mechanic. And in that world, there's no black and white. We're talking about very objectively machinery and the operation or failure to operate the machinery, right? There's nothing subjective about that. It's metal and parts and stuff, right? And it either works or you're fired, right? So it's very black and white. So why have I personally had issue with making plans? In the subjective world of goal achievement and scaling up business and life and aesthetics and whatever. It's not black and white. I to a large degree, have disabused myself of a lot of the training, the original training course that I went through, which is how to be pathetic. But as gratifying and rewarding as it was to learn a trade, right? That training is still with me because it was gratifying and rewarding. It was an advancing thing to do in life, right? Is stop being pathetic, start being a mechanic or something, to create solutions with machinery. And so, and I don't know how many of you can relate to that, but being stuck in the hard, rules and laws of mechanical or whatever you consider a rule or a law, right? Thinking about it, if you can use this as a metaphor, you may have never touched an engine in your life, okay? But if you can use this as a metaphor, right? The block, the engine block is the engine block, period, no debate, nothing subjective about it, totally objective. Iron, or whatever they're making it out of, right? Aluminum, these days more aluminum, but iron is iron, period. Case closed, right? That's what it is. And this is how you work with it. And these are the laws of iron. And being rigid, yes, rigid, has been hampering to what? To flexibility. I just think of the words, right? I'm rigid, I'm flexible, or I'm very orchestrated, or I'm spontaneous. Back to the idea with music, which Adrian and I had discussed a little bit. So here's the guy who can improvise, right? The impromptu, jazz act that just sprang up out of nowhere because they happened to be in the same place at the lounge, and it was open mic night or something, and they're making music just like that. That's a high level of production, by the way. That's not, you can't be focused on the basics and the technicals and then get, belt out like some spontaneous jazz. Okay, I think of jazz because when I think of improv, I think of some of the guys I know who can do that stuff. And it's like, holy crap. So that's so if I was rigid, okay, so that's flexible, that's spontaneous, okay. But if I was rigid, it's like, all right, where's my finger go on the guitar now? That's the A. Oh, okay, right. Well, you're not. So you see, there's a difference between being constructive with the tools that we already know how to use versus being creative and flexible and spontaneous and all those other subjective things. When we consider how we could advance, reach higher, and everything we're talking about, play at a higher level, we must be willing to, in some cases, abandon the rigidity of what worked yesterday. Scary. But that worked. Okay. Well, how about this as part of the gradient? Could you diversify? So, keep what's in. So here's what works. Cool. Do you have enough mental bandwidth or flexibility to say, here's a diversified approach? Here's something that could produce a higher statistic. So while not throwing the baby out with the bathwater, right? Because that could be very counterproductive. And I've done it, not literally. Okay. But I've done it where it's like, all right, we gotta change everything, and bam, down go the statistics. All right. So use your brain here with this. But if the how-to is getting you this far, but not further, can you at least add something to it? Do you have that mental bandwidth or flexibility to do that? And if you don't, and this is one of the considerations that came up for me, if you don't, then why is this all so consuming and you're still only getting these results? Why are you so damn consumed with this and still running kind of at a flat line, or little tiny improvements and little dips, right? I want life to be interesting. I want victories. I want to slay dragons. Okay. I'm not okay with tiny little, mediocrity and whatever. And again, my standards are mine. Your standards are yours. So whatever you consider mediocrity, right? I'm not giving you numbers. Okay. I remember, well, look, every day I meet with people and their standards are different than mine. Lower, higher, whatever. So I'm asking you all to raise your standards, know that you can, and then find ways to fulfill the intention by either addition or replacement. But enough with this good being the enemy of great, right? Enough with this. You've survived. Very cool. But there's a bigger game afoot. You're not just a rat. So these are the ideas that are coming up for me as how we play at a higher level. I'd love to hear your ideas on this because this was all very spontaneous. And Adrian, what are your thoughts, my friend?
I'll probably come up with a load of garble while I'm thinking this through. You threw a lot of ideas at this, John, but several things came up. I think that's very inspiring. Reaching higher, why to reach higher. I think the problem is that a lot of us are on a track we shouldn't be on, so we can't reach higher because we're reaching out of the wrong area. And that's the problem. Your example was actually the reverse side of the coin, where the musicians you were talking about, they were already musicians. They were just trying to reach higher, but they were already there. Well, what a lot of us are trying to do is reach higher from a completely different sector towards the sector we actually should be in and we're dreaming of being in. And that is part of the problem. You've got to make that jump at some point to reach higher in the right area. So that's a major challenge. And a lot of people haven't been able to make that quantum leap. We talked about transporters and Star Trek. You need to make a quantum leap to say, actually, I can't reach higher in music unless I'm in music. So I like that example. There is also that terrible enemy, the comfort zone inertia, where you work in a job a long time, you work in a particular service a long time, you get the stasis, you get locked up in it. There's a comfort zone, you know how to do it, you can almost do it with your eyes closed. There is then that terrible, it's almost like a drug. There's no point doing anything further because you can do it fine, you're getting paid, why make any changes? So that's a great enemy as well of reaching higher. It's having the courage to say, actually, yes, I'm going to have to be uncomfortable. I know this is so familiar to me, but if I want to reach higher to where I want to be, I've got to stop doing what I'm doing right now, because it's just holding you like a mire, like a marsh by the ankles, and you're not going to climb out of it. So that's the other thing that occurred to me. What motivates us? Well, motivationally, I think the problem is, to me, this is all about time, because I think we'd all say we're motivated, and I think a lot of us would say we're working hard, but time is the thief of progress. It's not procrastination that's the thief of time, it's time is the thief of progress, because we have lots of it. We have this famous jar we've talked about many times with a certain number of pebbles in, each one representing minutes or hours. We can only fit so many of those in the jar, but we've got plenty of them and we squander them. So I think often it's not our motivation that's the problem. It's getting organized and saying, as you do, John, if it's not in the diary, it's not going to happen. If I haven't allocated a proper slot, I'm not going to climb higher. My methodology is flawed from the start. You're saying work out how to deliver. We're not going to deliver if we're kidding ourselves. We're not managing the stones in the jar properly. We're giving those stones away, and then we get to the end of the day, there's a couple of small stones left, and we're trying to cram in this reach higher work. That ain't going to work either. So time is the thief of progress. Certainly in my case, I think it's the biggest enemy most of us will ever face. It's managing that time and using all the tools we've been talking about. That brought back to mind accountability teams, which could be a team of like-minded people, or it could be a coach. But if you're not accountable, and you've mentioned this today and many times, it's hard to be accountable to yourself. Unless you're extremely disciplined throughout the day and throughout the week, you're going to go off course and not finish the action list. It's great to have accountability coaches or partners or people who will say to you, well, how did you get on? And then you've got a pressure then to say, well, actually, I did make progress. No one wants to go on a call with accountability partners and say, well, I haven't done anything. So it definitely works, because we feel bad about turning up empty-handed. It's an interesting psychology, but even if they're our friends, no one wants to turn up and disappoint people. So that whole accountability setup works as well. And I think that's another way in your second section that we can get higher, is we've got to drive ourselves higher by being accountable and making sure we've done it. And then lastly, you were talking about imagination. Slay dragons requires big imagination. And I posted in the chat there the Henry Ford example of him saying, that's it, you're going to make a V8 engine for me. He wanted to go much higher. They had these tiny little engines. I mean, you and I have probably seen many Model T Fords. You know, it's you can have
You've
any,
driven one, right? I have a
well,
picture
yeah,
of you.
yeah, I've driven them as well, and any color as long as it's black. But you know, those were tiny engines where you could see all the moving parts. They had tiny valves on them. This guy said, forget all that. We're going to have this giant V8. And they just looked at him as if he was crazy. He wanted to slay dragons. He didn't want to drive around with a Model T engine for the rest of motoring's history. He said, this has got to change. I want more powerful vehicles that can do more, go further, pull more load. And they told him he was crazy, and he made them do it. So, you know, again, this imagination aspect is crucial. We've got to be able to imagine and think beyond what's in front of us. Otherwise, we don't go and invent a working iPhone or a whole new platform or a whole new engine. You've got to have the imagination to say, this could be done. Everyone else is going to tell you, you can't do it. So that's part of the first part and the second part of your aiming higher discussion. But anyway, a lot of garble, but that's what came up for me, John.
Oh, that was beautiful garble. Let me ask you this, because the idea of the jazz improvisers just came up again. At what point do they cross the Rubicon? And is that a trepidatious thing where it's like, all right, so now I'm good enough that I'm going to get on that stage and I'm going to improvise without being overwhelmed with fear? Well, what if it's crap? I mean, it might be garbage.
Well, you hit the nail on the head, because you won't get on the stage if that's your approach. When I first got on the stage with a band who asked me to practice with them, we just started practicing. We weren't ready. No way we were ready, but we did it anyway. And that's the only way we would have ever started. Because if we'd waited to be perfect, practice more, we'd never have done it. At some point we said, let's just go for it. We made a truckload of mistakes. Stuff broke. We couldn't hear ourselves. You know, we made errors, but we did it. We did it. Then the second one was a lot better. Third one, we'd learned quite a lot. The fourth one, we were getting quite slick. And then by, you know, a number, whatever, if stuff broke, the monitors broke, you couldn't hear yourself. You just were ready because there was that flow of action behind you, reserves to draw on. And that's the difference. So you'll never get on the stage if you wait to be ready. That's for sure. That's absolutely for sure.
Wow.
And that's
There
what
it
happened,
is.
certainly in my case. And then the musicians, John, great example again. It's not about the technicalities. Those people can play and play and play and play. And I have seen thousands of brilliant musicians. But if they want to break through, it's the material. It's their ethos, their spirit, their character, their material that breaks them big. It's not the fact they can play the instrument extremely well. You've got to be able to do more than that to go to the highest level. That's for sure. You've got to have a feeling and a spirit in what you're doing. And I've seen that every time, because I look at musicians saying, crumbs, that's a top selling hit musician. The guy that I just saw in the pub last week was brilliant, probably equally as brilliant, some of them more so technically, but they just somehow haven't got that. They haven't taken it to the higher level spiritually, mentally, charismatically, with the words they're using, whatever it is they're doing, they're creating art above the instrument. You're creating an art and a whole feeling above and beyond the instrument. So that's part of reaching higher too. So that's what comes up when you say that.
Right. Well, you just described the difference between the rigidity and the flexibility, and that we're never quite ready. Well, you're either going to do it or not. Ready or not, here we come, right? Maybe that's the mantra for everyone. Ready or not, here I come. That was something I learned as a child in hide and seek.
Yeah.
Right? You count to 10, ready or not, here I come.
Yeah.
There it is, guys. Ready
Well,
or not, here I come. The answer to life.
Yeah, that's your adjunct to your, imperfect and done. It's the corollary to that. Yeah, you've just got to go for it. The only way we really learn, just remember going back, learning how to drive. You actually learn how to drive when you take the L plate off, you've passed the test and you're on your own in the car, just like flying too. That's when you really start learning for yourself through observation and trial with no one backing you up what to do. So you have, ready or not, here I come is it, John. I mean, it's
wow.
You're going to make mistakes. I can guarantee there are going to be some terrible moments, but if you don't have those, it's all part of learning, saying, I'm not going to make that mistake again. I'm going to practice that. You've still got to practice. You can't get this for free. You still have to practice to be relatively good enough to do something. but then you've got to go for it. And then you learn the rest of it on the job. You'll never be ready. Yeah, so that's
Great.
your next work, John. Ready or not, here I come.
What a great way. Yeah. What a great way to start a webinar or something.
Yeah,
Sales pitch.
John, you've got to go for it. Why don't you write this? The follow-up to the first one, and just go for it. Just say, I'm going to put this out there. Ready or not, here I come. That's what it's all about. Just do it. You've got the
Look at
ability
this.
to write, John. We all know that.
See this? This is the power of masterminding right here. Here it is, ladies and gentlemen. You just witnessed it. I just took something I learned as a 4-year-old and turned it into like the most profound shit like everyone has ever heard. Oh, Linda, save me. I'm off the rails, Linda. What's your story?
Well, John, you're dead on. I mean, this is a great topic. And it brought up, my hobby that I do to challenge myself. Like, you're a musician, I like to do ballroom dancing, and I do competitions. And yeah, I mean, without the practice and the confidence, I'm sorry, I have to go. Bye.
All right. So there was see that, Adrian? We talked so long that Linda had run out of time.
I feel guilty now. Yeah.
Yeah, well, that's okay. She'll be back. She'll be back.
No,
There she is.
I'm back. Whoops, I'm back.
She's back.
Okay. Anyways, yeah, and it comes down to I think it's not just the motivation, it's more desire. I mean, motivation can only go so far, and then it's about the desire to do the best that I can, and to get out on that dance floor and just compete against myself, not against others, not worry about what they're doing, and try not to throw up before I get out on the dance floor. But yeah, and then like what Adrian was talking about, positivity, self-talk. I mean, like, we're magnets, and if we talk negative all the time, that's what we're going to attract, is the negative. If we talk positive, we're going to attract the positive. But like you were saying, John, I mean, I'm going to the convention next week, and I'm looking for a better way to do things, because what I'm doing isn't working for me. It gets me so far, but not where I want to go. And it's like, if you're gonna get on the phone and do a sales call, and you're gonna be like, ugh, I gotta do another sales call, then your vibration is like, ugh, you're just not gonna get the result that you want. So you gotta want to do and desire to do the thing that is going to get you to that place where you want to go, your goal. So yeah, for me, I've been struggling with that, just to find a different way, a different way. So
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, you're
so
this
I'm
close
very
to a
much
great
looking
thing.
forward to next week, meeting everyone and just listening and learning. So.
A question for you. How would you define motivation? Because you said it only goes so far.
Well, motivation is like when you get, to me, is, you're super excited about something, and, you start to do it, and you're really, pumped. And then after a while, that kind of fades away, because the desire, that burning desire that Napoleon talks about, isn't quite there. Without that, I don't think motivation goes very far. At least for me.
Okay.
Talking about me.
I just wanted to clarify what you're saying, because it said it only goes so far. I'm looking at the definition of the word, the general desire or willingness of someone to do something. So like I said before, willingness to do. Now, if your desire is not there, I could see exactly what you're saying. If that has waned, or the counter ideas to the fact that you can, in other words, ideas that you can't, have beclouded your white hot obsession or whatever, well then, yes, motivation also declines.
Right.
Okay. But I think a lot of us have given ourselves the opportunity to play it safe. In other words, we didn't really reach like we could have. We held ourselves back. We pulled our punches, and therefore haven't really demonstrated how far we could go if we're truly motivated and truly knowing that we can.
Right. With that desire.
Uh-huh.
If it becomes, when it becomes a chore, look, okay, yeah, I got to do this today. Then it's not the same as, oh, I'm so excited. I got to, I got 5 people I can talk to today, and this is going to be great, Yeah.
Okay.
So I think
Linda,
that's
you're
where
this close to a breakthrough. You're this friggin' close. You stay the course, and I'm looking forward to seeing you in person next week because I'll be there too.
I know, I can't wait.
Yeah, baby, it's gonna be good.
So
Plus,
is
we got
Shannon coming too, or?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, great. Finally get to meet Shannon.
There you go.
All
Good
righty.
times.
All right.
All right, I'll let you get back to whatever covert operation you're running in the background over there. Let's get Missy and then Ingrid out here. Hey, Missy.
John, our anniversary is coming up. I found the first book from the first day I ever met you. It was June 7th. I was looking for something and I found it. And that day I knew nothing except I don't want to die. And I've learned that I did not know that no matter what you do, you're selling. And my foundational purpose is to better myself, regardless. If I get $1 billion tomorrow, I'm still showing up here because the $1 billion does not better me. This does. And meeting with all these other like-minded people does. And that is what pumps me. Linda was saying, I get pumped up by the thought that I am getting better and things are coming my way because I'm gaining more confidence. And I never in a million years believed that I could be an entrepreneur. I'm not yet at a high level because I still have to hone my skills, but I know that the how will work its way in because I have the why. And I'm serving people, I'm solving people's problems, as you said many times. And that gives you such a different attitude when you're on the phone with people. Hey, they signed up for this thing. Remind them why they signed up. And when you think of yourself as serving, it's just that's why guys like my father who were in the military, he was in for 43 years, plus he was a New York City fireman. He just carried himself. He always knew he was serving. He never walked around and said, I serve people. I'm not serving. He serves his country with pride, willing to die for it. And I'm just trying to carry that on in my own way because I was never raised with parents who said anything about people who are rich. They admired them. They were just middle class, grew up at a certain time, worked 4 jobs and kept us in games and food and Christmas presents out to the dining room. And, but it was the greatest upbringing I could have gotten. Because whenever you say those things, like, do you have a bad thing about money or do people say, I spoke to somebody the other night on GoDaddy who told me that he doesn't think people should be allowed to have $1 billion. So I forced him to get the book, The Power of Awareness. I said, don't you understand that if you had $1 billion, how many people you could serve and help? He said, well, yeah, but they don't. I said, who's they?
Yeah.
I said, it's not the money that is the problem. It is, I said, you have to change the mindsets of all these people. And so I made a little progress. He gave me his email. He wants me to stay in touch. So an impression of increase on both our ends. He was nice as pie, helped me out. And now I'm babbling. But that underlying purpose began that day that I met you, June 7th, 2021. It'll be a high watermark in my life forever.
Oh,
thank you.
Well, we're not always aware of what effect we're having. And so thank you for sharing that with me. And you just had an effect on somebody else because you had the bandwidth and the reach, right? And the consciousness to do so. So I guess we can call that paying it forward, right? So you've gained and now you can offer to others. just like the $1 billion, right? It just makes you more of what you already are. So I suppose if you're a rotten bastard, then you'll be more of a rotten bastard. If you're, a contributor, you'll be more of a contributor, right? It just gives you options. So thank you, Missy. And nice plane, by the way. Nice plane. Good times. Hey, where's my favorite violinist in the entire universe? Is she here?
Hey there.
Hey. How you doing, my friend?
Good, thanks. I'm just a little confused. Maybe I wasn't quite understanding, Linda, what you were saying, but about, so having grown up as a musician to become a professional musician and all those good things, a lot of time it really doesn't have anything about motivation. I suppose in one level, because you got a competition to get ready for or whatever, but it's just slogging. It's just discipline, that either self-discipline if you're old enough to be that way, or some parent helping you be more disciplined. That's the reality. Like the motivation part, oh wow, let's go do this, is about a second. And then after that, it's just start sweating. I don't know. That's the reality.
Well, if we define motivation as willingness to act, willingness to do, that doesn't necessarily mean you're jumping up and down. Oh, I can't wait to do it. Oh, this is such what a treat. No, just that you're willing to do it. And do it to such a degree that you've developed mastery. Okay, so put a violin in Ingrid's hand and you're going to have like a magical experience, right? That's just how did that happen? Well, she was motivated enough to like show up to practice for decades.
Okay. That sounds really nicer than it really is, but okay.
I'm not saying it's glamorous or romantic. It's just you did it.
Yeah.
That's it. So I think all of the considerations about it, I like it, I don't like it, I shouldn't. And like Adrian brought up the word procrastination before, right? Which is a state of chronic indecision, maybe, right? And time goes, it just goes and goes and goes with no progress, right? So ready or not, here I come. Here's the friggin' violin, right? And the improvo-meter goes up when your hands are on the violin and you are willing to put your hands on violin. Hence, mastery. That's it.
Okay. It just sounded way more beautiful the way it was being described in the reality. That's all.
Okay. Oh yeah, it's not romantic. It's not romantic.
Thanks.
I love you, Ingrid. Oh my goodness, guys! I think I had a breakthrough in this session. Thank you. I never know when I'm going to get the breakthrough, so I show up for a lot. I show up again and again, and then something's like, bam, there it is. There it is. So anyway, love you guys. I'm going to be back here with you at 6 p.m. Eastern for Be Heard. If you're seeing this on YouTube or whatever, and you'd like a membership, go to jlsuccessmastermind.com and you can grab yourself a 2-week trial. Guaranteed you're going to love it. And we have lots of cool talks. This is one of them. But anyway, we'll wrap up with that, unless anybody's got a burning desire that you need to share before you burst into flames or something. No, we're all good. Okay.
You're gonna write it, John. You just got to write it now. That's a whole new theme. You got it all down today. You got all the points there.
I gotta go off the grid again. I gotta go.
You don't have to go. You can fit it around everything you're doing. You're already write the notes down, dictate it out. The software nowadays is so much easier. Dictate the whole thing down. You can do it off the cuff practically. Just get your notes down. This is going to be great.
Yeah. See all these considerations? You see it? You see the smoke coming out of my ears?
Reach higher, John. Yeah.
But I got to pick every word has to be exactly right. I mean, that's how I write. It's every word. Yeah. No? Okay. Yeah. You know what? I guess if I use what's on the bestseller list as a barometer, it could be total crap. Right. So here's 250 pages with maybe 1 or 2 good ideas in it. All right. I'm not going to turn out a piece of crap. I can't do that. But all right. Well, I got this is the second time this week John write another book has come up second time this week. All right. Thank you, Adrian, and
Third
everyone.
time's a charm.
There you go. All right, Ingrid. Maybe if you sing me a song, with string accompaniment.
Yeah, no.
All right, guys. We'll see you all back here at 6:00. If you're going to be around, I'd love to hear what you've got to say on Be Heard. All right. Make it a great day. You so deserve.